I'm not. Welcome back to the Lost Cause Ranch. Today is a pretty frickin' big day. Once again, we had something pretty cool show up, and it is something that I have done without for the past 3 years, and I don't know how I've managed to survive in that time period. I've had a 2-post lift in my shops since I was 20 years old, which was about a 14-year span. That was up until 3 years ago when Ted and I sold our little commercial shop. But today that changes. We are gonna be back in action, and the car wash is gonna be massively more useful. You know how old working on the ground makes you feel after having hoists? Well, I'm happy life's gonna be much easier because we have a frickin' pile of stuff that needs to get in the air. I think Chet's getting sick of having to do everything on the ground. How about we get this guy up and make life a little bit easier? Being we didn't have a real great way to get this off a semi, we had it delivered to the little brother shop. Things have to get worse before they get better, right? We're cramped on room, and these laying right here are not helping the situation. But what I think I'm gonna do is unpack everything out of the columns themselves. It's all Tetrised in there pretty well, and they are pretty efficient at getting these as compact as possible. Why does everything have to be so heavy? How do I do this without pinching fingers? You know what I love when assembling stuff? Just a bag of random unlabeled hardware. I assume some of this goes there. All right, it's probably too heavy for me. Yeah. Slightly. Yep. I just don't know ceiling. I'll keep your nose, Scott. We're gonna. Oh. There we go. See, I had it like lifted. And then you're just like, I'm not quite enough to like reset. Good? Yep. See, I don't even know if you'd even do it any easier with a forklift. Well, especially without the ceiling height. Alright, so Ted came over, helped me tip these guys up. Tried to do it myself, figured that wouldn't work. They're pretty tall and heavy, and I'm pretty not. But Ted and I have installed quite a few of these guys, and with 2 people, they're actually not that bad to tip up because the hoist carriage is at the bottom, so there is a lot of weight sitting down there. Not so much up there. 12 feet of leverage helps, and there really isn't a much easier way without a lot of ceiling height, because even if we had the forklift, we'd have to awkwardly choke them down here so we didn't run into the ceiling. It's just easier to tip them up by hand. But now that they're upright, we need to start laying out where we're gonna set them. They need to be this many millimeters wide. Into American, we need 131.5 inches from the back side of the flange to the back side of the flange. And if that math is right, we should be able to slip this upper bar in between the 2 uprights. The width is a predetermined dimension that we cannot change, and we're gonna center them off this drain right here for 2 reasons. One is this drain is centered off that door, so pulling stuff in is just gonna be easier that way. Number 2, being this was a car wash, we have a decent slope on the floor heading towards the drain. So for this to work out right without having to do a boatload of oddball shims, we need the distance from the drain to the column to be equal on each side. That way the only shims we we need to have are on this end of the column so we can plumb it out and we don't need to shim one side or the other to make the heights equal from side to side. But the one thing we need to figure out is how far into the shop bay we set the hoist up. We have a couple factors that are going to determine that. I'd like to keep it offset towards the front side of the car wash so we leave some usable space on that side past whatever vehicle is going to be on the hoist. But I also want to keep this far enough forward that we can fit, say, a crew cab long box dual rear wheel pickup truck while having the door shut. Little brother has an F450 in that configuration. I'd like to be able to lift that, and this hoist is rated for 12,000 pounds, so we should be able to do that. I just looked up the specs. That truck should be 220-ish inches long. If you split that in half, that'd be 110 inches, which is a little under 10 feet. But on the hoist, you're going to offset more overhang in the rear. So we're going to factor on having 12 feet of clearance on the rear. So right here would work out to be the center of the hoist, very near the end of the garage door track. First mark we're going to do is right here to mark center of the column. Then we need to go over here and we'll measure how wide our plate is, and it's just under 19. We'll mark that there. So this mark here should be where this ends up lining up. Then from here, it's just a little bit of math. The opening for the drain is 33.5 inches. So we take that off our 131.5 and then divide that by half, and we end up with 49 inches out on each side of the drain. Because I'm assuming when they poured the concrete for the building, they did a good job of squaring that off. And I guess if there's anything to square it off of visually, it may as well be the big thing in the center. But to do that, we're gonna use our T-square right along the edge and we'll be able to trace out. We're only 48 inches out here, so we'll have to extend this an inch. So we'll mark that, and we'll trace a line. Then we'll square this, and we'll just shift this guy and butt it right up against that corner. And we're gonna do the same on this side. And now we just need to rock these guys into place, which isn't terribly difficult. Being all the weight is hanging in the bottom, we can just kind of walk them back and forth. Now we can make sure we ended up where we needed to be, and we are at 131.5 on the nose. They're a little tilted in. We need to plumb them up a little bit. Just like me, they're about a half a bubble off. But we're gonna have plenty of clearance with the garage door track. We're gonna have to rearrange what's going on over here so we can walk on this side of it, but we knew that. So I went ahead and zipped in a couple of the rear anchors on each side. That way these guys are locked in place. They're not going to move front to back or side to side. They are where they're going to be, but we had to do just the rear because we're going to have to shim up the inside of the flange to account for the slope in the floor. Looking like about a ½ inch up front here to get both these guys plumb. But before we throw the other 8 anchors in, we're going to get the top crossbar that bolts in between the 2 columns up into place. This appears to be a 2-person job once again, like tipping the post up was, but we're going to attempt to figure out a way to do it with 1 person and 1 ladder. If I had 2 ladders, it'd be much easier. Name of the game is improvisation, though. Maybe Chet can lend a hand, or would it be a paw? So I've been mulling over how to get this thing all the way up there by myself with just 1 ladder. Well, I think after dreaming on it for one night, we got something we can try. We're going to use a Land Rover ladder. Seemed better in theory. Okay, poor idea. So we cleared a little space so we can hang that guy. feel like that's like super low. Every other hoist I've ever had, the hydraulic pump's right at about my head level. This one's a little easier for me to reach. And now that we have the motor sitting in place, we can start working on the wiring end of things. In from the panel, which is in the bathroom, we pulled some wire, and we're gonna jump through this box with the 220 outlet and shoot it up to the ceiling, and we're gonna run some conduit to that box there, which means we made a stop at my favorite store, because no good project around here can be done without at least one trip to my favorite store, Menards. So we got the wiring all sorted and tied together. Once we get our lock cable ran and set up, we'll tuck this guy inside the cover to clean that all up. But we got some flexible line ran to the conduit. Like I said, when I bought the place, we have frickin' power out the yin yang. We have 200 amps on this panel, and if need be, we have a separate 200 amps coming in over here. So we have more than we'll ever use in our 1,800 square foot shop, but we tied our hoist in here. And if you saw when we wired up the shop at the ranch, this is kind of annoying me, but we need to go through and strip a ton of this out. All the car wash stuff is gone, so a lot of this is just dead. So we'll be able to clean up a lot, but we'll take care of that when we go ahead and sort out the fab side. So that's going to be a little more intensive on the wiring. We got quite a bit to run over there. All right, so we're doing take 2. We'll see if it works better with 2 people. You good? I'm not. All right, you got it? It's going to roll. All right, you good?
Yes, I'm good.
Well, it's moving. That's the only reason I'm asking. So that went a tad smoother than it did with me trying it alone. So we'll get this loosely put into place, and then we can snug the columns down and tighten everything up. So on both columns, we're plumb this way, but we have a little bit of adjusting to do this way. Top of this column needs to be pulled in that direction. So in order to do that, we're going to tighten the side the top needs to pull to first. So if I tighten these two, that's gonna suck it towards me. But we made up some shims to get everything sitting happy. We have a 1/4 inch shim in the center, 1/2 inch shim towards the inside. So we're sitting actually pretty good. It's not gonna take a whole lot to get this guy sitting right. And we must've got our layout spot on because the top bar fit in perfectly. In these scenarios, a little prep on the front end pays off in big dividends on the final result. We're now sitting good on this one. Concrete anchors over time will pull and loosen up. So in something like this, we're gonna definitely wanna check and make sure everything stays tight for the first bit of using it. So we'll lift some cars up, recheck them, and we'll do that periodically until nothing continues to move. We don't exactly want this thing falling. That'd be less than ideal. We left everything up top loose so the posts can move freely while we were tightening them down. It never ceases to amaze me on a warm day how much of a difference it makes just being 10 feet up. But it's freaking warm out. But we are getting pretty close now. We just have an equalizer cable on each side that needs to run up through that top bar and down over to the other carriage. And we also have a hydraulic line that needs to run from this cylinder along that same path over to that fitting. There's a couple pulleys on each side of the bar. Those cables will run on those. We got some dust up here as well. What those cables do is keep this carriage and that carriage synced together. So when we're lifting something up, it stays nice and level side to side instead of tilting. If you just relied on the hydraulics, it would kind of shift its way up, which is slightly unnerving. We'll start off with the hose just to get that out of the way so we have more real estate to work with. Get this guy untangled. So we got our hose ran, connected inside. Now we just need to snug up the jumper hose from the pump. All right, we got our cables ran. I have them roughly adjusted right now. After we run this guy up and down a couple times, we'll make sure everything is good to go. In the manual, it says you want to be able to use your finger and thumb and pinch them together. Seems like we accomplished that. We just got a couple things left. We need to run our lock cable. That's going to release our safety lock in here. So I think we just need to zip these pulleys on up top. And then we just have this little switch to install at the bottom of the bar. This padded bar goes there, and what that'll do is shut off the hoist if we happen to run the top of a vehicle into that bar. We got this guy all hooked up. Looks like it releases well. Along with that side, suppose dump some oil in it. Well, it didn't instantly kick off, so we didn't majorly mess it up. I'd say that's a success. We're gonna see if the locks work here. Would you look at that? Both sides are locked up. Now we're gonna let it back down and we'll top the fluid back off now that it filled the cylinders up. Now without any weight, including the weight of the arms themselves, it's gonna be pretty slow coming back down. But hey, I think we're in action. And we're still going. And we're home. And the thing even works all the way up. And I suppose throw a couple arms on to make the thing actually useful. We obviously need to readjust these. That's just after lifting it without any weight. Quite a bit looser now. We got a new obstacle course in here for you. The first time putting real weight on it is always a little nerve-wracking. Hasn't fallen yet though. Man, that is a good feeling to be able to throw the Land Rovers back up in the air. Like I said earlier, it has been over 3 years since I've had a hoist. Had every intention of doing this at the old ranch shop, but just, you know, sold it before the opportunity. But holy cow, once again, is it going to be so much easier to get stuff done. And our little budget muffler delete is still holding up, even after like 5 Midwest winters. I think being this thing's pretty fancy, we might just have to go stainless on this one. A little closer to something like this. On the tall stuff like the LR4, we are going to have the garage door closed if we want to get the full lift height on it. Sure would be nice to have the tall ceilings of the old shop, but this will do. Now just a quick little rundown why I chose this particular hoist. This is a KA tool, AM120SD or something like that. It is a 12,000 pound asymmetrical lift. Asymmetrical means we have a short arm up front, longer arm in the rear, and it's designed to set the vehicle a little further back, which gives you a little more room up front, a little less out back. And with the way the garage door tracks are set up in here, we can only go so far back, so a symmetrical one would eat up more of the front space. Although realistically, you can load an asymmetrical and a symmetrical one about the same. It just makes it easier to set it further back with the shorter front arm. But truthfully, I'm just a pretty shallow person, and the main reason I bought this one was the colors. You see, I can't really stand the typical blue and yellow hoist anymore. It just doesn't go with anything. So we went with red and gray, which I think just blends better into our little concrete bunker. But no, this one intrigued me for the cost. These are less than $3,000 delivered, and it has some nice features that remind me a lot of the bend packs that we had. The arms are nice and sturdy. The welds actually look half decent for a Chinese one. Don't look like it's gonna break, but I like the lifting pucks. So instead of having a bunch of stacking adapters like this to make up the height you want, you got one set of adapters, and then the lifting pad itself has a screw jack, and you can dial in the height exactly how you need it. I also like the locks on these. A lot of the cheaper ones have a real short 3 or 4 teeth worth of engagement, locking it in. This has a tapered top and bottom lock, and you get like 15 teeth grabbing. But on top of all that, this one just so happened to give us the most amount of height possible. As you can see, we have like 2 inches up top to spare, so we're using everything we got. Now we just need to check everything over, tighten everything back up now that we put some actual weight on it. You know the LR4 is a porker. We'll check all our concrete anchors, and then we are in frickin' business. We have stuff piled up waiting to go on this hoist, so I am excited to get to using it, and the next video you guys will see this in action because we can't be driving an L405 stock. With that being said, appreciate you guys watching, appreciate you subscribing, and we need to clean this mess up. Kind of a slob.